What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a brand new episode of Bets and Banter. And today on the show, we're talking none other than UFC 311. We've got 2 title fights. We've got big lines, big favorites, big underdogs. And I'm excited to talk about it all. We got a great guest once again, back in the saddle. Just win, baby. How you doing this week, my man?
Yo, bro. Yeah, I'm good. We're coming off a good week. Last week we had C-Rod. That was one of the big highlights. I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember what else we had, but yeah, it was a good week, man. Good kickstart to the year and ready to do it all again.
I love to hear it. Last week, the focus for me, man, I was in a little bit of a rut to end last year. So I said, you know what? We got a new event back. I'm going to go with my most confident pick. And both of us really thought Austin Bashi was not the guy for last week, right? And so that's what I did. I just made it a simple single bet type of week. But the betting strategy guide that I make also popped off. So that's the thing that makes me happy. When your reads are flowing, your confidence starts to get a little bit higher. And I just wanted to book a win. We booked a win. Let's keep it rolling in the right direction, my man. And what better card to do it than the first pay-per-view of the year? We've got pound for pound talents on this card. So I think that we've got a lot of great stuff to discuss. Let's start like we always do by just saying, hey, if you guys don't mind, drop a like on the show, get subscribed to the channel. We're here talking fights each and every week, trying to put you guys in a position to succeed. And now we're doing it on a Tuesday, a little bit earlier. So we got our research going, and hopefully you guys will show a little love and pay us back for that. Now, with that being said, guys, let's start with the first fight of the evening. I think that the Tapology order is changing, throughout the course of the week. But right now, what they've got for us is Tagir Ruonbeckov taking on Clayton Carpenter in the opener. And I just have to say, I'm excited about this fight. Clayton Carpenter, a guy that was out for a while. He had that injury. But if you look back, he was a highly touted prospect on the Contender Series. People had high hopes for him. Came in maybe a little bit undersized against Chirez. Hardest fight of his career. Found a way to grit through it. You see him get busted up in the eye. Didn't find a way out. Found a way in. Still won the fight. And then he looked, I thought, pretty good against his last opponent, Lucas Rocha. A lot of people were down on Rocha. I thought Rocha was going to give him an honest fight, and I thought he was doing a pretty good job scrambling, moving. He was a little undersized there. Now he's fighting a much bigger Tagir Ruonbeckov. But speaking of bigger, is Tagir Ruonbeckov, a flyweight these days? I'm not sure that he is. The guy can't make the weight. He showed up to fight Josh Van looking like a corpse. Couldn't make it. So in this spot, it's like you've got a Clayton Carpenter who I think is coming into his own. Certainly not on the same level of experience, but he's a talented fighter, and instantly when I saw the line, I was like, this seems a little presumptuous to me because I think that if people see a corpse on the scale again, except he actually has to go fight this time, I think people aren't going to want to bet on Tagir Ruonbeckov at minus 300 or whatever. So he's a great fighter, talented guy, but we saw him lose to Tim Elliott. We kind of saw him get into his own head there. He was getting fouled, right? And so instead of fighting back and whatever, he started to feel sorry for himself. And ultimately, I think that that's the danger here, but clearly a talented guy. And I just think Clayton Carpenter, also a talented guy, and we still have a lot more to learn from him. So at plus 270, it's a dog or pass situation for me. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, I'm interested in Carpenter, to be honest. Like you said, the weight's a problem for Tagir. He's just fought at 135 in some grappling competition. Now he's got to go back down again to 125. I don't trust that he'll make weight. I don't trust that if he does make weight, he won't look like shit and gas in there with someone like Carpenter, who's youthful, energetic. They're going to be there for the full 3 rounds. He's not fucking Cody Durden, who's like 5 foot nothing now. He's a stocky guy, probably been on the juice, Carpenter, and the rest of it. Got a good jiu-jitsu game, so that can negate these guillotines that Tagir likes to go for. Tagir, he tries to do the whole, daggy thing, the Khabib style, but he's nowhere near the level of them. He's just had fortunate competition. I think Carpenter can give him a run for his money if he implements the right game plan. He's decent on the feet, Carpenter. He has some power. I think that the line's off, and I'm willing to take the shot on Carpenter, man. But yeah, nothing too in-depth, but it's mainly just about the weight, him being 33. I'm willing to take the shot, man. There's a couple of dogs on the card. I got 3 of them, and Carpenter's one.
Yeah, I also like some dogs on this card, and Carpenter was one of the ones that jumped off the page at me. The thing I've said this year is I want to stick to proven commodities, and I want to go back and dig a little deeper in the tape, make sure that I like everything that I see. But just looking at it, I think Tagir, solid enough fighter. I just think on the other side, another solid fighter. And when you get big numbers on good fighters that have a chance to win, that's my goal this year, is to put myself in those positions. So I think it should be a good fight to start us off. Obviously, some size advantages for Tagir, but I think the cardio edge goes to Clayton Carpenter here, based on what we've seen, and especially if it's a tough weight cut. I think it should be a good scrap. Speaking of cardio advantages, Ricky Turcios, that is his claim to fame. The guy can go all day. He's got a great pace, but he can also just get drawn a line in the sand by my guy, Ayman Zahabi, and he didn't want to cross it for love nor money. So, Rich, what are your thoughts on the second fight of the night? We got Ricky Turcios, fan favorite, taking on Bernardo Sopai. And, Sopai let us down a little bit against Lockdog Oliveira, but we've seen Lockdog has been a problem for a lot of guys now. Coming out the shoot in the UFC. So I think he's just a very quality opponent, and I think Sopai still has a bright future. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, that fight pissed me off, man. That Oliveira guy pisses me off in general. I don't like him, man. I think he's got a massive hole in the grappling. That's why I picked Sopai to beat him. We almost got it. Obviously, Def Gas got knocked the fuck out. He's took a lot of time off. It's been a year. I like that for him. He's all right, man. But when I'm watching tape, I don't know. He slows down as the fight goes on. I don't like that he's kind of low volume. He tries to be too technical, but he's not the best striker in the world. He does carry some power. His wrestling's decent from the camp he's at with the all-star guys. I think that Ricky's going to be safe here. I know he got subbed in his last fight, but notoriously Ricky's got good anti-grappling, anti-jiu-jitsu. He can look after himself. He throws up some triangles and some arm bars. He has some decent jiu-jitsu offensively, but he doesn't do it slick enough, man. He's too slow and people see what he's up to, so he doesn't get many submissions. His gas tank's really good, so Ricky's cardio is going to be there. He doesn't have power in his shots, but he does throw high volume. He will be in your face. But like you said, if he fights fucking Zahabi, he can come out and do a fucking Derek Lewis and Ngannou and just stare at his opponent and do nothing. So you don't know what Ricky you're going to get.
He'll do more than that. He'll shadow box from halfway across the octagon.
He's frustrating, bro. I can't back him. Super frustrating. But yeah, he could win this fight if he came in with some IQ, which he doesn't have, and if he came in with a good game plan. But I don't trust him to do that. So I think Sopai is going to win. I think it's going to be a decision. Round 3 could be scary if Ricky turns it up, but I just don't trust it to happen, man. So yeah, my official pick is Sopai, and I think it's going to be a decision, man.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of your sentiments on this one, Rich. I think that Sopai is a better fighter than Ricky Turcios, but I do think that there's concern anytime you talk about somebody where you're scared of their cardio going into the third round and you have to lay a big price behind them. It kind of reminds me of, I felt like C-Rod against Julian Erosa, just as like a parallel example. I thought he's probably going to come out and knock him out in the first round. But what did we see there? He went out with the intent to do that. He's swinging hard. He's throwing heavy, and he got tired. He kind of just fought against his own archetype, and it wasn't to his advantage. And I think Sopai, last time out, he did a great job. He landed some stuff early, but he was on short notice there, and it kind of showed. So I want to see him go out there and earn this one. It's a prove-it spot for me, but I do think this is a fight he's capable of winning. I've just gotten opportunities to fade Turcios at plus money in the past, in my opinion, with better fighters, so or at least more proven fighters, right? Sopai, I think he's got great potential, a high ceiling, but I want to see him go out there and earn it. The other thing that people don't always talk about, I'm going to talk about it, is he the same guy coming off that knockout loss? And I don't mean like your career is over, whatever. Confidence is the number one aspect that I want to see from a fighter. I want them to know I can go out there and win this fight. If you don't believe it, I don't believe it. So this guy, Sopai, he just got knocked out in really brutal fashion. Could that make him a little more conservative? Could we see him a little bit more within himself? Those are some things I want to see before I pay this big price tag. So that's all the caveats I want to give. Ultimately, I just don't think Ricky is for real at this level. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but go back and look. He's got 2 wins in the UFC. They're both split decisions over guys that are just hangers on, not guys that are contending for titles, moving up in the rankings. They're guys that are just guys. Kevin Natividad, split decision. I mean, come on, that's not a great look. So I think that when you look at on the other side, Sopai, if he was going to fight those guys, I don't think he's going out there to split decisions with them more often than not. That's just the way that I see it. But we'll have to find out. So you have to pay for the potential here on Sopai. I think he's going to get it done. And honestly, my only difference here, Rich, is I think he's live to knock him out early as well. Ricky got knocked out, I think, by Mana Martinez on the regional scene in pretty brutal fashion. And, Raul Rosas Jr., grappling specialist, not really going to test your chin. Ayman Zahabi was more than willing to punch him in the face, but he didn't want to come close enough to find out. So I think that those are the kind of fights where maybe he didn't get tested in that area. And I think Soai is going to hit him really hard. So.
Yeah, it's funny as well. Last week, people were saying, C-Rod can only win fights if his opponent's gas, which wasn't true. And that's exactly the same with fucking Ricky, but it actually is true. He's one of these guys where he just hangs in there, hopes that you fade with the volume, with the pressure. So, yeah, we'll see if that's the case this week.
Hell yeah. And we got a lot of sharp people contributing in the chat. Just want to say shout out to the sharpest chat in the game each and every week. God bless you guys. Hope that everybody's doing well. And I appreciate your thoughts and your feedback along the way. We're going to continue to put that up on the screen and address it when necessary. But next up, my man, we got Rinya Nakamura taking on Muin Gaffarov. And I have been a Muin Gaffarov hater. Right, historically, I was standing against the market with my guy Chad and Hellinger, like, give me another one. That video of Connor, more chips, where he just like hands him over the money. Give me more chips. That's what I wanted on Chad and Hellinger. And he went out there, earned a split decision on Contender Series, one of my favorite Contender Series bets of all time. Shout out to Chad and Hellinger, the true Canadian alpha. But when you look back, it was still a really close fight. You've seen Gaffarov in a lot of these close fights. I think every fight he has in the UFC, I predict him to lose by split decision because he normally goes out there, he's got a decent enough start, and then he starts to taper off a little bit and things start to get a little sideways for him. You look at the one fight that he had that blew my mind was when he goes out there and just instantly got submitted. I didn't see that happening. I thought he was pretty competent. Most of his losses are by decision where he slows down over time. So to go out there and just make a huge categorical error in the first round and get submitted, that kind of surprised me. And then he goes out there and gets a win over a guy who's no longer with the promotion in his last fight. So shout out to him. He did his damn thing. But Rinya Nakamura on the other side, I'm not seeing the great quality wins. Like, I see the potential. I see the skill. I see the athleticism. But he's going out there and decisioning guys that are just average guys. And that for me is a mildly concerning factor here. So I think that he hasn't really beaten much. Muin Gaffarov, way more experience. The price is a little prohibitive for me. I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's got too much athleticism, too much strength. I think he could just get to his wrestling when he needs it here. But ultimately, Muin Gaffarov's been in a lot more high-level fights. I think he was in one back in 2018. He's been in the UFC for a time now. The guy's been around for a long time and had a lot more high-level fights than Rinya Nakamura. So for me, big number in this one. It's over 4-1 already. So I certainly can't get involved on the Rinya side personally. How about you?
Yeah, this was the one that I struggled with when I finished up the card, man. I just left it and went back to it because I was undecided. I think I like Gaffarov to win, man. But I think I might play the under instead. Fight doesn't go. Shout out to Glenn for pointing out the price. Yeah, I don't trust this Nakamura guy. I don't think he's that dangerous unless you go full retard at him and then he knocks you out like that China guy did, Kazuma or whatever his name is. But aside from that, I don't like his
Yoshiomi Kazama from Japan sprinted onto a right hand and died.
That's the fella. But yeah, I don't like his jiu-jitsu, man. If you're a wrestler and your whole game is taking people down, then yeah, you should have some good back takes, put a body triangle in and really fucking, put the pressure on people. But he doesn't. He goes for these arm locks, these Kimuras and shit. And it's kind of a case of his guys fading and then he gets his submission. So I don't know if he's, his game is like longed for the UFC. I know he should have finished that Vera guy. But, when a guy's in there and he's just, fighting to survive, and isn't looking to win the fight, it's kind of hard to submit him. So I kind of give him a pass for that performance. But the thing with Gaffarov is he doesn't settle on bottom, man. He won't just play guard. He won't, close his guard and keep you there. He will get back to his feet or at least try. So I think that's going to make for violence, man. I think it's going to wear both people out. It's going to test the cardio of this guy and, really show us what he's made of. And, yeah, he's unorthodox, Gaffarov. He's got some power in his hands, I guess. He's got some submissions on the regional scene. Like his first 10 fights, he had like a bunch of submissions, 4 or 5 of them. So I don't know, man. I think this is a good test spot. It's a good dog spot on the card as well, considering how I think that a lot of favorites are going to win also. But yeah, I'm going to look for fight doesn't go. And I'll see what those props are for Gaffarov, because I do think this is going to be violence, and I think it's probably going to end within the first 2 rounds, man. So yeah, I'll take the shot on Gaffarov. But I am aware of his cardio issues. I do know it could go the other way as well. He could die on me. Hence the fight doesn't go bet, man.
Yeah, the other thing I'll note here is when you're looking at Gaffarov, like he's the younger guy with way more professional experience, and he's fought way more like quality, competent opponents. If you go back and look at his losses, like you could justify the vast majority. Said Nurmagomedov would be a heavy favorite against Rinya Nakamura, in my view. No disrespect, but just like based on what he's proven. Then you look at John Castaneda, you know, that's a fight that he could have won, but he kind of let that one slip through his fingers. So that one, I guess you hold against him. Chad and Hellinger, that's a fight a lot of people thought he got jobbed out. I was happy to cash my ticket. I said that the line was too wide, but it was a very close fight. Like if Chad had lost that one, there's no crying in your coffee over that either. John Lineker, he was a legit UFC fighter as well. And when he beat him, it was 2019 back in one championship. So the other thing I'll leave you guys with on this fight, the UFC loves Tajikistan. They could fill up arenas to go watch them on television. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and we've seen it before with, what was his name? I'm now drawing a blank. I've bet it multiple times. Yes, Naimov against Nathaniel Wood went out there and got the win, right? But think about prior to that, he knocked out Jamie Malarkey cold as a 4-1 underdog. Like these guys from Tajikistan come to throw down. They're not afraid to fight. And if they lose, so be it. I mean, he's been finished one time as a professional, and it was against a really legit opponent. Like, I don't know, like a 9-0 guy that's got a lot of athletic potential and checks a lot of the right boxes. He's still got to go out there and prove you something at 9-0 with no good wins. That's just the truth. So,
yeah, there's 2 other things as well. Nakamura, 2 of his opponents came in late notice. Wasn't Fernie Garcia late notice as well as?
I think so. I'd have to double check that, but that wouldn't surprise me. And now, listen, do I think a lot of people are signing up to fight Rinya? No, because he's a guy that could probably take down most of the guys in the division. But it's just a fight at the end of the day. And I haven't seen this guy fighting at a high enough level that I'm like, oh, he's a lock. You know, he's the better athlete. But one guy has been in 25 professional mixed martial arts bouts against really good guys. And the other guy has been in no good bouts. Like he's fought nobody that you'd be like, well, I really respect that guy. That guy's put in a lot of good work behind his name. They're okay. Like they're not, I'm not saying that they're bums. I'm just saying like, what are they? They're not special. Right. And Muin Gaffarov has fought a couple special guys. Did it always go his way? No, but he's been in there with them. It's a really valuable experience in my view.
Yeah, Gaffarov's fought people like Castaneda, Chad and Hellinger, who can do everything. They're competent and, you know, confident on the feet, but they also have some grappling as well. And the last thing I can say is he's coming all the way from fucking Asia, man. Whereas thingies at Syndicate Gaffarov, it's like an hour flight, man. So that might play a part as well.
Good points. I love to hear it. Next up, my man, I have very little to say about this one. You know, I'm curious if you do. We got Carol Hosa taking on Aylin Perez. I have cried in my coffee in person watching my girl Carol Hosa just sell a bet against Sarah McMahon. Couldn't believe what I was watching. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at this fight and saying I can see the path for both women. Like I've seen enough footage from Carol Hosa just phoning it in the grappling, being lazy, getting pushed around, having bad optics to lose a decision. But on the other side, like if you haven't been worried watching some of these Aylin Perez performances, like she goes out there and she's gritty, she's tough, but the skills are still a work in progress every fight. And the cardio definitely looks suspect in the end of these third rounds a lot of the time. So Daria Zelyannikova is plain bad. And I think that in this fight, she has a good opponent in Carol Hosa, a solid opponent that probably could have fought for the title if she had just composed herself a little differently in her last couple fights. So I think Carol Hosa is a career underperformer, but like skill for skill, she's the better fighter here. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, I fucking went in on this one. I watched plenty of tape on Rosa. I already know what Perez is about. The most interesting thing I could find is in that McMahon fight with Rosa, I know she got took down for the first 2 rounds and she got controlled on the mat. But those takedowns, man, they were double legs. You know, she doubled into the fucking ankles with speed, with her Olympic fucking credentials. And that's what got her down.
Silver medalist, baby.
Yeah, the difference is everyone else who tried to take her down, Dumont, who she lost to, Yana, which was a split, they all tried the high body lock takedowns, and it didn't work for them. They didn't get any takedowns. And that's exactly what Perez does, man. Perez isn't going to be hitting these double legs, single legs, running the pipe like McMahon is capable of. She's high body locks, man. She either goes for the high body lock or she'll go for head and arm throws. And the majority of the time with these head and arm throws, she exposes her back and she gives up position, man. She can end up on her back herself, and it's not pretty when she's on her back, man. So I like Rosa. I don't like the money line. I didn't like it at 170, 180. I know it's blown out now. It's like minus 200 range or whatever the fuck it is. I think the way to attack this is you wait until after round one and then you bet Rosa at like plus 150, because Perez, for all of her faults and whatnot, she is, when she's fresh, you know, sprightly, ready to go. She might have success. She might get a takedown. She might be able to lift her, you know, with that strength when she's fresh, but she ain't going to get fuck all as the fight goes on, especially in round 2 or 3. So I think she's got a round in her, Perez, in this fight. Even if she took Rosa down and it looks like, oh, it's the Sarah McMahon fight all again, don't trust it. Hammer fucking Rosa live. Rosa will win this fight. I'm confident of it. I'm going to look to attack the props for round 2 and 3 pre-fight, and then I'll get in live, man. But I don't think Perez can sustain like this pressure that she puts on with other girls. Rosa's quite chunky, man. She's got big thighs. She is a black belt. I don't know how legit that is. You know, she has been subbed before and been put in precarious positions. But I don't think Perez is the type to sub her. I think, like you said, that Darriter Russian chick, she was complete trash on the mat, and that's why the sub game from Perez. Standing, we know Perez has got 0 striking. She ain't knocking anybody out. She ain't rocking anybody. That's all going to be Rosa with the calf kicks. You know, she's got some heavy hands, and it wouldn't surprise me if she splits her open, maybe even elbows on the mat and completely fucks her up, man. So, yeah, I'm here for it, man. Rosa, and she's going to smash her, but wait to get in live, man.
Yeah, if you guys go back and you watch the Sarah McMahon fight, if you listen real close in round 3, you could probably hear me in the back going, elbows, Carol, elbows. And she just simply wasn't doing enough. But I agree with you, Rich, in terms of who's the more skilled fighter. It's another case like Gaffarov, except that in this case, obviously, she's the favorite. But if you look at Carol Hosa, she's had so many more fights. And Aylin Perez has been getting it done with enthusiasm and heart and, you know, like going out there, pushing the pace, pressure, like you said. But it hasn't always been great sophistication. Carol Hosa, the better striker as I see it. And also, you know, she is the more credentialed jiu-jitsu player, just plain and simple. But is she prone to making mistakes on the mat? Yes. The last time that happened was against a solid opponent, Melissa Gatto, all the way back in 2018. I will just say, I talk about it a lot when fighters are taking grappling matches. It's a sign that they're trying to get better at that skill. And she did a grappling match. Her wife, her girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, Denise Gomes, doing grappling matches as well. They've gone and traveled with Jessica Andrade and Pirani Vale-Tudo. Those teams, they kind of bounced around and got a lot of good looks. So wouldn't be surprised if we see a career best Carol Hosa here. She's been this close against a lot of the top contenders in the division. Now she's taking a slight step down in competition. I respect both these women. But I just think this is a tough spot. I will just say, though, I bet Aylin Perez against Stephanie Egger, and everybody thought I was insane. This is when she had not made a name for herself yet, and it was a competitive fight until it wasn't, right? She made a mistake on the ground and got finished. But she was out there scrapping, and that's the one thing. To your point, Rich, I think that this live line is probably going to close after one round, and then that would be the time to get in, not on the current minus 300 or whatever it is, because I do think Carol Hosa – kind of prone to starting a little slow and giving up some opportunities. All right, my man, we can move on from here. We've got next up Grant Dawson taking on Carlos Diego Ferrera. I will say there's been sharp activity on the Carlos Diego Ferrera side. I've been watching the market here. Whether or not it ends up coming to pass, that's yet to be seen. But there was sharp resistance across the market at plus 250. Lines started to just drop out of the sky like anchors. And now I think plus 225 is the best available price. So I look at this and I say, I want a better price, but I would have to be on Carlos Diego Ferrera passing here. The other thing I will note, Grant Dawson, some people give him grief about his cardio. And I do think that's fair, but I think his cardio is one of these things that comes and goes with the wind, right? Like against Ricky Glenn, that was just an embarrassing performance. I had Ricky Glenn plus 400. I was disgusted that I didn't cash it, but we got the money back, right? It was a draw with a guy that Grant Dawson theoretically should be way, way better than. And then when you look at his other performances, sometimes he goes out there and dogs it out against Jared Gordon in the 3rd round, tracks him down, submits a guy who's never been submitted before, who's a legit Renzo Gracie guy. So I look and I say, sometimes he's got it, sometimes he don't. But in this kind of fight, skill for skill, I like Carlos Diego Ferrera striking way better. I think his grappling is very good and difficult to deal with and tricky. So it's not like you could just hang out in his guard and stuff like that. If you're getting put in traps by Selecki, I think you're going to get put in some traps by CDF. Do I think Grant Dawson could survive that, outlast him, outpace him, and kill him late? I do. But I think he's going to have to survive some shit. I think he's going to have to be in some craziness because that's kind of the way that we see him fight. You know, you see a guy like Grant Dawson engage in a lot of high-paced scrambles, a lot of craziness, trying to take the back. If he's able to take the back early and often, then it's going to be his fight. But has anybody really easily outgrappled CDF? The answer is no. Even if you look back at the Gregor Gillespie fight, Gamrot, I had a huge bet on Gamrot against him. Gamrot had to go out there and earn that takedown. I had Gamrot sub 2 at an insane number, I think like 25-1. And as he locks on that rear naked choke, my man gives the old finger wave because his rib was broken. And I couldn't believe it, man. Cost me a big number. But in any case, that was a guy that I felt super confident in Gamrot's ability to go out there and push the pace. We know he can go 5 hard 5s. And meanwhile, on the other side, this guy, Grant Dawson, sometimes slows down in a 3-round fight. So if you're going to slow down against CDF, he can kill you. No doubt about it. For me, the big plus money number, that or Grant Dawson late, that's the way I'd look at it. How about you?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And you got some good points. CDF, he definitely is better in the stand-up. And he does look, you know, like he's on the steroids as he always has been. You know, that cardio for someone who's 40 is just insane. His physique's still looking good. I think he got popped for him back in the day, if I remember rightly.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, but I think that Dawson's going to win this one. I think he's going to get his submission in the first 2 rounds. And like the Rosa fight with Perez, I just think there's one big X factor here, and it's the fact that Dawson is bigger in the metrics, or almost the same size, where Ruonbeckov was, I even wrote this down somewhere, Ruonbeckov was 5'7", man, with a 6'6" reach. You know, he's tiny with these T-Rex arms. And when it comes to the grappling, I don't think that helped at all. Obviously, him fucking gassing definitely didn't help. But I think metrics will come into play here. I like the size of Dawson. He's from ATT, probably on some kind of fucking concoction himself. Most of those guys are. That camp's notorious for it. But yeah, aside for that in the fight, I just think that he's got good grappling. Dawson, yeah, I would like, if I'm betting him, which I won't because the line's shit. But I like the fact that he can put this body lock on and control opponents. You know, he's been frustrated in the past, and that's what I hate about guys like him, guys like Selecki, that they're one-dimensional. They go in there, put a body lock in, and then they ride the round out, and it's boring to watch. That's why I've never been a fan. But in terms of the matchup, man, I think it's going to bode well for Dawson. Get that body lock in, waste some time, discourage Ferrera from pushing back. You know, Ruonbeckov gave him all the confidence in the world. You know, he was slowing down. He was hittable on the feet. But I just think Dawson's going to have his way, man. Go back to, you know, the first couple of fights he had in the UFC where he was just shutting people down with his body lock, with his jiu-jitsu, with his control, with the wrestling. And yeah, I think at some point he's going to sub Carlos, probably late round two, I'd say. That's all I got.
Fair play, my man. I could definitely see that. The one thing I'll say is I felt differently after seeing Ruonbeckov go out there against Orobai and go to absolute war, push an insane pace and keep going. I was like, this guy can be in a like crazy fight and keep pushing and find a way. But Carlos Diego Ferrera gave him no fucking opportunity. He just beat the piss out of him as that fight got extended. And I think both these guys are juiced to the tits. I'll just be honest about that. Obviously, I think Grant Dawson at 30 years of age is closer to the prime of his life and career. I do think he's probably in a spot where, you know, closer to title aspirations, things like that. But when you look back at the Bobby Green fight, I was so confident that Bobby Green was not going to win that fight because I'm like, he's not the most powerful guy. You know, he's not the most aggressive guy. And Grant Dawson should have every opportunity to dominate him on the mat. And I say that as a guy who really respects Bobby. Look at what happened to Bobby against our guy from your neck of the woods, right? Paddy Pimblett, he got insta-killed, right? Like he's supposed to, as an older guy who's been an elder statesman, who's been in a million fights. That's what's supposed to happen when he fights the young up-and-comer. And he fought Grant Dawson, and he had no respect for him, by the way, walked him down and killed him. And Grant Dawson looked completely uncomfortable from the second the fight started. Here's the one thing that bothers me as well. Some people will say that, no worries. Like, you look back, Grant Dawson's doing, like, advertisements of, like, you need some sleep, like call Bobby Green and whatever, and like doing like mattress commercials and shit. And I was like, I get the self-deprecating and whatever. That's Kevin Holland shit for me. That's like, I don't care about the outcome. I care about the money. And I'm like, the guy clearly wants to be a world champion. He works very hard. He trains. But at the end of the day, you're going to war with Ricky Glenn, who's an older guy who's been way past his prime. You're getting knocked the fuck out in the first round by Bobby Green. Like, I can't trust you at huge favorite prices against guys that are real, against the guys that are, hangers on and guys on the outside looking in, like a Rafa Garcia. And these guys those are the guys he's supposed to go out there and handle business against. They gave him huge steps down in competition. Now they're saying it's time to step back up. And can you beat a 40-year-old Carlos Diego Ferrera? I think the answer is yes. But can I trust you? The answer is no. For me. So the one thing I will say is I bet Leonardo Santos against this guy as well. And I bet Grant Dawson 12-1 round 3 in that fight, because I was like, listen, he's a Brazilian with no cardio that's going to go out there and give me 7 minutes of hell. And he tried to kill Grant Dawson. He did some good work. He was beating him up. He was winning the first round, but then it came down to it. He started to gas out. And the one thing about Grant Dawson, he will chase you down in round 3. He will, if he has the cardio left, he will chase you down and look for that finish in round 3. He did it to Jared Gordon. He did it to Leo Santos. Guys, he sent his mouthpiece into the outer echelons of the arena. It's one of the craziest knockouts that I've seen in all of my years watching fighting. And you'd never think you'd hear that about a Grant Dawson fight, but it's true. So if you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. 2021. What a special time to be a fight fan. All right. That being said, my man, I just wanted to leave on that last note. The reason I showed this screen, they were supposed to fight back in 2021. My guy, Carlos Diego Ferrera, has been plotting on this one since he got injured and pulled out of that one. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get Grant Dawson back. I'm going to pay him back one day. So he's got his opportunity now. Okay, next up, Rich, if you've got anything on Zach Reese versus Azamat Bekoev, please be my guest. I, unfortunately, was not able to tape Bekoev yet because he just got announced for this card, I think, yesterday. And I was able to tape Billy Elakina, but I was not able to get around to this guy. What do you think about this one, Rich, if anything?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up my notes for it now. I did manage to, that Boev guy, I think Reese is live for the submission, and I'm going to play it, man. It's similar to the Selecki fight for me against Aliv that we saw last week. I think that this Boev guy, his name ain't Boev, Bekoev guy. Yeah, I think he's all about the takedowns, man. Typical fucking Russian style where he takes people down, rinse and repeat. He has good cardio. He's from ATT. He's jacked. He's built like fuck. And I think he's going to, in his debut, to be comfortable, he's going to take him down and do what he knows best. The problem with that is I do like Reese's submission game, especially off his back. He will throw up triangles very slickly as well, arm bars and transitions from the two. And I think that's going to be dangerous, man, especially at the number as well. I think they're just crazy. I'm going to take a shot for that reason. There are things I don't like about Zach. He doesn't use his reach. This guy could be something, man. He's tall as fuck. He's got a huge reach, but he doesn't use it. He gets cracked in every fight. So there's definitely a world where Bekoev flatlines him within a round, within a minute, even within the first exchanges. The guy is that hittable on the feet. He can't gauge distance, man. He can't manage his distance, and it's a big problem for him, and it's always going to get him knocked out. And he hasn't ever shored that up. He was getting cracked by fucking Brundage before that fight went to the ground. But if Boev takes him down, he's sloppy, man, especially when he's in guard. It reminds me of Ankalaev against Paul Craig, something in that situation where, Reese is that slick with his jiu-jitsu, man, pulling up these triangles, pulling up these arm bars. He's even got a nasty guillotine. He uses his length or variations of a front choke. So the submission is definitely live here. It'd be nice if we can get like 8-1, 10-1. I haven't looked at any numbers yet. But yeah, that's the only way I'm going to attack this fight. And it's going to be the only thing with value, in my opinion. So Reese by submission for me, and I'll put a quarter of a unit on it probably.
Hell yeah, my man. I think that's fair play. This is probably a fight I'm not going to have any exposure on. I think it leans under, just in terms of the style of both guys. I bet the under in the Brundage-Reese fight as a way to try and avoid a landmine there. And I was thankful I did. But I don't think I bet on anything in the Medina fight because Medina has just incredible durability. And, I wasn't sure what he was going to look like down at 185. In this spot, a lot of experience on the Bekoev side. But Zach Reese had a lot of amateur experience. I think he fought Kevin Holland back in the day, lost a decision, back in the amateur scene. So he's been around for a little while, and 30 years of age, should be coming into his athletic prime. So not a tremendous amount for me to offer on that one, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and someone said, is Reese KO live? Yeah, he could KO him. He's got the power. He's got the size, but I don't know. I think technically he's not that great. He has length, he has power. He can knock out the likes of fucking Marquez, who's washed his fucking, retiring. But yeah, I wouldn't think it's super live. No, I prefer the submission only. That's the way I'd attack this. But the most probable outcome is Bekoev's going to knock him out at some point in the fight. But, I ain't betting that. It's going to be a stupid number.
Hell yeah. Next up, my man, we've got Jailton Almeida taking on Sergey Spivac. Mahaldinho against the Polar Bear. Big favorite price tag on Jailton Almeida. I think he's a great fighter, but after I got burnt by that Curtis Blades performance, I was not as keen to bet him at chalk moving forward. I do think he's an uncomfortable striker, but I think you've got two guys that pride themselves on their grappling here, and I think the better grappler is Jailton Almeida, so I think he's going to win the fight ultimately, whether that's getting to the top position and beating him up with ground and pound or whether that's using his submission skills. But Jailton Almeida, I think, can take down anybody in the division. I think that this, could play a little bit closer than the line, but I ultimately see Jailton getting the job done. What about you, Rich?
Oh, man, my eyes lit up when I was scanning this card, looking ahead, last week. And I'd seen this one and I seen plus 300 Spivac or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to have some of that. And then it got to the card and, I was looking them up and I was looking at Instagram, seeing what each person has been doing. And Spivac's been doing fuck all with his life, man, since his last fight. Hasn't been posting like he was last fight. We're not seeing these amazing transformations from this fat fucker who's slimmed down and taking it seriously. What I did see is that he's knocked up his missus, Marina, whatever her name is, the girl who fought in PFL. They're having a baby. They're all loved up, posting fucking montages like Ihor was doing of them fucking going on their adventures or whatever. So yeah, I don't think he's been training. I don't think he's been doing much of anything. And that for that reason alone, I'm out. I don't want to know. I'm not on the Spivac side. Almeida has his problems, but you've got to be ready and you've got to have a decent game plan to negate what he's going to do. And yeah, I just think he's going to have his way with Spivac. He's going to get his takedown. He's probably going to submit him in round 1 or 2. And I just got turned off by that, man. And I was like, you know what? Just fucking pass on the whole thing. Almeida's going to do his shit and probably submit him. But yeah, I don't want to know. I'm passing. And that's the only reason, man.
Yeah, I know people give him grief about the striking, which I think is totally deserved. But absorbed per minute, 0.72 strikes. He does a pretty good job limiting the exposure that he has. And then his takedown, 6.8 per 15 minutes, 2.6 submission attempts per 15 minutes. Those are absurd, shocking numbers. So I think Jailton is just a very difficult challenge. If you want to grapple proactively in your fights, I think it's going to be very difficult for you. And I thought Sergey Spivac was going life and death in the boxing with Alexei Olenek when he was 40 some odd. So I just don't think he's a very dangerous striker either, personally.
Yeah, I say this though. This is what interested me about Spivac before I seen that he hasn't been fucking doing anything. Is I did think, man, he's improved in the boxing. That fight was a minute ago against Ollie. But yeah, the grappling though, he struggled with Ollie in that fight. Obviously, Ollie gassed. But yeah, those problems are still there on the mat, man. I think pure jiu-jitsu with Jailton and Spivac probably doesn't do too well. So if Almeida can get him down, I think it's going to be a long night or a short night.
You think back Tabora took him down into a bad situation, right? But like, I just think Jailton's a little more clean about his takedowns are normally right into dominant position. So that's the way I see this one going.
Yep.
All righty, my man. Next up, we've got Peyton Talbot taking on Raoni Barcelos. Obviously, the line is huge, but I think Peyton Talbot's probably going to win this one. I would get interested potentially in an under 1.5. I saw it was plus money here. And, you know, I know Peyton typically likes to stretch guys out, take them out a little bit later on in the fight, round 2, round 3. Raoni Barcelos, I don't think can take a great punch anymore at this point in his career. 37 years of age, going on 38, been hurt in a lot of these fights. Victor Henry, not known for his power, was hurting him. Was landing so many shots, and Raoni was able to tank a lot of them. And I just don't think he could do that anymore. Umar hit him with a punch that didn't look like it had much zip on it, and it sent him flying, out. So I think that Peyton Talbot has heat. He throws hard. I think he's a very dangerous guy on the feet. And if we had to point to what is his vulnerability, he gave up his back. He got taken down by Nick Aguirre. Raoni Barcelos, when he's fresh, when he comes out, he's got a great jiu-jitsu pedigree. If he sells out for the grappling, maybe he's got a chance to close the show early as well. So for me, I think both guys have a chance to finish in round 1, but ultimately I think the right guy is favored. I think Peyton's going to do it. I think he's going to knock him out, put him on a highlight reel. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, I like decision myself for Talbot. But yeah, I'm not going to bet it, but that's how I think the fight's going to go. I know a knockout definitely could come, like you said, the age on Barcelos, the wear and tear on him as well. But Peyton, man, I do think that he's going to, fuck everyone over at some point when they keep making him fucking minus 1,400. Because, yeah, when I check him out on Instagram, what he's been doing, I just think he could go to an even bigger camp, or at least take his fucking fighting seriously. I think he's one of these like entitled type kids who think, I've got it, man. I can always rely on what I have, athleticism, use my size, my cardio and whatnot, and do my thing. And I just think he could push himself more, do more. Per Instagram, you just see him fucking being all, what's the word, like nonchalant about this, and he's off to parties and trying to be cool and edgy and indie. Like, his personality fucks me right off. Like, I can't stand it with like the painted black nails and all the fucking, woke type shit. But I think he's going to outlast Barcelos. I think he's going to negate any types of takedowns. But Raoni doesn't push on his grappling, man. The amount of times I bet that fucker by submission in fights and he just doesn't go for it. I finally got it against, who was the guy? Quinones. Finally got a submission, but even that I think was a club and sub. He doesn't push the grappling, so I think Talbot's going to be fine. Raoni isn't going to expose that in this fight. I think his cardio is probably going to be there. Barcelos, he's always game, he's always up for it. He has been training per Instagram again. I like this decision for Peyton, but I'm very aware that he could flatline Raoni at any point. But I don't think he's got huge power, Peyton. Yeah, he knocked out that French-Moroccan guy in the first round, but so what? He was a bum. It's usually an accumulation of punches. He stays in your face and wears you down, outlasts opponents. So I don't know, man. I like the decision, but the number's shit. It's like plus 200. I'd like something a bit better than that.
Yeah, if you remember the Simon fight as well, he came out and he was just dealing. Like, he was throwing heat from the beginning and couldn't miss. So that's the one thing for me is like, I love Raoni Barcelos, fun fighter, but like a lot of good, talented Brazilian guys that don't speak the best English, they just keep him on the back shelf. I think he started his UFC career like 6-0 or something like that, and I think he's 2-4 over his last 6 fights. This is off the top of my head. Don't crucify me for that, but you look and it's like he's just been on a really bad run lately, and I think that the durability is really not there anymore. So that is my concern for him here, and I think the UFC wants to market Peyton Talbot, and I can see all the reasons why, right? All right. Yep. Next up, man, we got Billy Elana and Bogdan Guskov. I don't know what the line should be on this one. I'd have to give it a little bit more thought. I was only able to watch 2 fights from Billy, but what I will say is, the fight that he lost against Compton was concerning for me. I don't know that the cardio's there. He slowed down pretty significantly over the course of that fight. He got hurt late in that fight. he got top position a lot and did fuck all with it in that fight. So there were some things I didn't like about that. Bogdan Guskov on the other side, he gets a lot of grief, but he's got knockout power in his hands. I think that he's not as bad a grappler as everybody seems to think that he is. They think he's like the worst grappler that ever existed. I'm like, you get submitted by Volkan Ozdemir, who's like a UFC veteran, a guy who's been around for a really long time. I don't think that means like, oh, you suck. I think that means, you were swinging it out. He got hurt in that fight, and then he went down to the ground and got submitted. I just don't think Bogdan has a style that should be like a huge favorite. He goes out there, takes big risks, chin up in the air, throwing wild shots. He's the kind of guy that somebody's going on a highlight reel. Somebody's probably going to get killed when he's fighting out there. And I think there's a chance it's Elakina. I do think he can get hit cleanly. Compton hurt him badly in that fight. But I have also seen him go out there and land big head kicks, land big strikes of his own. So if that's the case, like I think either one of these guys live by knockout in the early going of this fight. But Bogdan has a little bit more experience to lean on. And honestly, I think he trains with a slightly higher level of fighter as well. So those are my thoughts, Rich. How about you?
Yeah, Billy definitely could knock him out. Anyone can, land a punch. But I don't like the fact that this is his debut. I know he's got some decent experience, Billy. But I don't like that, he's coming into the UFC on a pay-per-view, short notice, high up on the card as well. I don't think that bodes well for him. And the only thing I'm interested in this fight is Guskov by submission. He is capable of it. I hope that Billy takes him down and he syncs up a triangle like he did on the regional scene. He was decent with it. And I'm the same as you, man. I give him a pass for that Volkan fight. It was too soon, too much. He got hurt. He got submitted. I can make allowances for that. But yeah, he sure could get knocked out by Billy, but I prefer the submission angle for Guskov. I think it's going to be a huge number, literally like 15-1, something like that. I remember in one of his earlier fights, it was like 20-1, and I hit it then because I do think it's going to come. And I think this is the perfect spot, man. Whenever someone comes in on short notice, I always like to look at the submission angle just because I think people are happy to be there. I've got my ride in the UFC now. It doesn't matter if I take an L here. Sometimes I'll have some quit in them, depending on the opponent, depending on how short notice it is or the occasion. So yeah, that's the way I'm going to look to attack it, man.
Yeah, we've got some people asking, what is the under price here? I'm not even sure that the whole market has come out with a money line yet. So we're probably going to have to be patient on the total. What I am seeing is BetOnline has originated an under 1.5 chalk to -155. That feels a little gross to me. So yeah, I probably would lay off that, but I think that I lean towards the under, but I don't know that it's worth laying that kind of chalk because I could see it extending 8 minutes, without that much issue. I just think before 15 minutes is all said and done, the way that these guys don't really defend very well, probably going to lead to somebody getting finished. But my question is, do either one of them have the cardio to like take the other guy out if they get tired? It might look like that Compton fight where they're both exhausted in round 3 and just looking to scrap something out. So that for me is a concern on laying any chalk here. Next up, we've got Kevin Holland taking on Rene Darriter. And I tweeted this out earlier. Nobody has cost people more money, or I should say nobody's been a more profitable fade for the BetMMA community than Kevin Holland. If you look back, there's just been a lot of opportunities to fade Kevin, where the public likes him and he's a cool guy. He's got a fun style, but even in his wins lately, I've been really, really disappointed. Right? Like he's going out there getting dropped by Michal Oleksiejczuk, needs a miracle armbar off his back. And by miracle armbar, I mean, he didn't submit him with an armbar. He had a good one. It was real solid. And then Michal Oleksiejczuk's like, is this not MMA? Do I not have to tap anymore? Like he didn't snap my arm in half. Like I don't understand. But in any case, we got the win there. I had Kevin by sub in that spot. I didn't come away from it like, wow, Kevin, what a great job. You're really moving on up. Against Roman Dolidze, we were on Dolidze there, on this show. I was pretty confident about it. All week, people were telling me, he's going to knock him out, dude. Dolidze sucks. And I was like, guys, he's a 185-pounder that knows the wrestle. He knows the grapple. It's over. If you go back and look, find me an example of a guy that knows how to wrestle and grapple that Kevin Holland's beat at 185 pounds. Doesn't happen. So maybe he could do it this time, right? Maybe nobody's been as open to getting knocked out on the feet as Rene Darriter. But Anatoly Malikin would pick up Kevin Holland and throw him outside the octagon. So I don't want to talk about that fight. You know, the thing I want to talk about from there is to say Rene Darriter looks like he does start to feel sorry for himself if he's getting hit clean in the face and can't get his shit going. Okay, so that for me is a concern if he's a chalk favorite here. It's a closely lined fight. I think that the guy who was plus money earlier in the week, Rene Darriter, was the right side. And I think that he's probably going to win this fight. I think it might be one takedown and the fight is over shortly thereafter. I just don't think that Kevin Holland has the same interest in fighting anymore. But I also will say, if you go back and look, the one thing that I can't ignore is that Rene Darriter fought Gerald Meerschaert and submitted him. Gerald Meerschaert summarily outgrappled Kevin Holland for the duration of their bout, and it was a controversial decision. You can go back and look for yourself. Kevin did a little more damage, right? He's a little bit slicker on the feet. But Gerald Meerschaert gets written off as like a guy who doesn't know how to strike. He beat the shit out of Makhmud Muradov with body kicks. He beat the shit out of Bruno Silva and then finished him with a choke because he's a jiu-jitsu legend and he wanted to claim one for jiu-jitsu. He beat his ass. He hit him with strikes. So I think that people don't give GM3 any credit for his striking. And if you just look at the stats for these two guys, one guy went out there and beat GM3. And by the way, did it at GM3's own game. Dogged him out in the wrestling, dogged him out in the grappling. And when GM3 normally exhausts you going into round 3 and finishes you, he had nothing left to give. So he was like, oh my God, this guy is just pushing too much. I thought that Rene Darriter was going to be tested in that fight. In this fight, I think he's got a clear path to victory. So Rene Darriter, as far as I'm concerned. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, it's a cool main card, man. There's some big fucking names on it. And yeah, I like this fight, man. I think it's interesting. But I think weight matters and size matters. And this Darriter's like fucking, this cunt's 6'4", man. He's a 205er. He's fought at fucking heavyweight before, and now he's dropping down to 185. And he looked good in his last fight, man. He looked trim before the fight started. The only knock on that is he's slow as fuck. Slow in transitions, slow as fuck on the feet. You know, he's got barely any striking, but when he does connect, it's powerful because, you know, I imagine by the time of fighting, he's like 220 pounds in there or some shit. You know, the guy's fucking huge. So that's going to be a problem for Kevin. I've been saying it for a while, man. Kevin's been checked out since the Chimaev fight when he got paid. Ever since then, he's had no interest in fighting. He still hasn't either. You know, I went to his Instagram and the guy's fucking lost it, man. He's taking fucking selfies on the toilet and these videos on the toilet. He's just being weird, man. So yeah, I think I like Darriter. I think I like a decision. I do think Kevin got hurt in the last fight. I don't think he's a bitch. I don't think he'd look for a way out. So yeah, against Roman, I do think that was legit. But that takedown came easy for Roman. And then
did the same thing against Wonderboy. I agree with you, but the same thing happened against Wonderboy for whatever it's worth.
The hand thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When he gets hurt, like a lot of fighters get hurt in their fights and they keep fighting and we hear about it after. And Kevin, when he gets hurt, he's like, you know what? Thanks anyways, guys. I'll see my way out.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I guess we'd never know, will we? But I don't think Lightning's going to strike twice in 2 fights. I can't see that happening. I think he's going to, I don't know, have more pride than that as well. So I think if Darriter's on top, getting the easy takedowns, I think he's just not going to get them. Holland does have good jiu-jitsu, man. You know, he's subbed a few people in his career himself, but obviously when he comes up against a brick wall with people with legit, you know, defense in the BJJ department, he struggles. And Darriter is that, man. Darriter is a grappler. So yeah, I think he's going to struggle, but I think it's going to be a decision. Kevin's just going to play it safe and go in there not to lose. Like we mentioned about that Vera guy against Nakamura earlier on in the card. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Kevin's going to go in there and he's just going to play it safe and just try not to get finished. So I like Ridder. I like the price, and I'll probably take it, man. What is the decision price? If anyone wants to post that in the chat, I'd be interested to know. I haven't looked at props yet.
So what I want to do really quick is just run through his fights. He fought Derek Brunson at middleweight, and I bet Derek Brunson plus 150. He absolutely rinsed him. And Derek Brunson, guys, did not have 5 rounds of cardio. He was exhausted. He looked like he was ready to go into cardiac arrest. He still got the takedowns for free every time that he wanted them. Okay, and by the way, he almost submitted him with a head and arm choke. So he had a head and arm choke for like 3 minutes locked up, and Kevin Holland just had to sit there and chill because he didn't know how to get out. Then you look at the Marvin Vettori fight, gets rinsed in the grappling again. Against Kyle Dawkins, they clashed heads, so he got bailed out of getting submitted by Kyle Dawkins. That absolutely happened. I was there. I watched it with my own 2 eyes, all right? So it definitely happened. Then we look back. Okay, He fights Alex Cowboy Oliveira. He has his back briefly taken in the first round by Alex Cowboy Oliveira, who's not very good at grappling. And he's got to do the thumbs up. I like Kevin, but again, not a great look. Tim Means is well past his prime. I bet large sums of coin on him inside the distance, on him by submission. That was a free win. Then you look at Khamzat Chimaev. He got beat there. And to your point, Rich, he got paid there. And then where is his level of intensity since then? Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he just lets him up from several takedowns, doesn't submit him, and gives the fight away. Like, that's not a guy who respects coin. To the point of the chat, there are coin respecters and coin disrespecters. He's a coin disrespecter. He doesn't give a shit about your money. He will go out there and sell your money down the river. Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's arguably down 2 rounds and knocks him out in the 3rd. I mean, God bless him for it. Ponzinibbio's ancient. He lost the 1st round to Carlston Harris. Then you look back, Michael Chiesa. Guys, Michael Chiesa's never met a Darce choke he didn't want to sprint headfirst into. It's just, that's how you cap his fights. Do they know the Darce choke? Do they not know the Darce choke? You normally get the right answer with just that question. Then you come up with, okay, Jack Della Maddalena. I thought it was going to be a split. I thought Kevin Holland could win it, but he didn't press. He didn't put his foot on the gas, and he didn't go out there and take it from him. He just left it hanging in the balance, and then after, shucks again. Shucks. You know, that's the Kevin Holland answer to these losses that he just keeps stacking up. Michael Venom Page. A lot of people told me he's going to dog on Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page isn't a UFC guy. Kevin Holland's a UFC guy. He's going to let him know what time it is. What happened? He got dog walked, guys. He almost got knocked out several times. The most his very durable chin has been tested. Michael Page is hitting him for free, dancing on him, doing anything he wanted to him in that fight as a plus 120 underdog. Michal Olszewski is on the verge of being cut from his UFC contract. They give him a free 99 win. Hey, Kevin, here's the easy one. Go out there and take this guy down one time and submit him. And he goes, okay, ding, hit in the face, falls over, looks like he's about to get finished again. It's like, guys, none of that's good. Then against Roman Dolidze, 1st round injury, but what was going to happen in that fight? He was going to get taken down. Anytime Roman Dolidze wanted to, he's going to take him down. So I don't see it with Kevin anymore. And personally, I love Kevin. But by the way, Rich, my guy said, I think Liam doesn't like Holland. I've made so much money betting on Kevin Holland fights that it's breaking my heart that I feel like I can never bet on him again. Like, there will never be a time I bet on Kevin Holland at a chalk price, much less on a money line again, because he doesn't care about my money. If you don't care about my money, how can I bet on you? C-Rod goes out there to fight, right? He's going to go out there and give you what he's got. If he gets caught, I can say to myself, you know what? That's life. He went out there to fight hard for my money. This guy, Kevin Holland, it's a 50-50 whether he's even going to try to fight for your money. Not for me. God bless and good luck. Right now, you got to pay 50%, right? 51%, whatever his implied win probability, that he's going to go out there and fight for your money. And you don't even know if he's going to. It's a 50-50 chance that he's even going to try. So, no, not for me.
Nah, yeah, you're right, man. I think the only thing I'd look at here is Holland by KO, because Ritter is that slow on the feet. And each fight, obviously starts on the feet each round. And if you do think it's going to be a decision, which I think it will be for Ritter, Kevin's going to have at least 30 seconds of each round before he gets taken down to land something. But it's very low percentage, man. So I'll go Ritter. Against
Derek Brunson, I bet Kevin Holland KO 1 for like 0.1 units. Kevin Holland KO 2 for like 0.1 units. I was like, that's the only way I'm going to lose this bet. Otherwise, I felt really good about my guy DB. So next up, my man, we're going to have you kick us off, Rich. Beneil Dariush, Renato Money Moicano. This is a fun fight. I love both these guys, both a little bit advanced in their career. But I think that the guy with momentum right now is Moicano. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, Moicano's going to win. I see some people betting Benny, and they talk about him like it's 1998 still, and it's not. The guy's had multiple injuries. They might be the same age. They're both 35, but Benny's like 45 in fucking fight years, man. Been KO'd a few times lately as well. He's had meniscus surgery that I seen him posting on Instagram. I see him with his fucking wife and kids all the time down at the gym, which is fine if that's the life you want. But are you in fighting now, or are you fucking a full-time family man? And I think he's a full-time family man who's doing this on the side and still picking up the fucking, I don't know, what's he on? 100K plus paychecks. So yeah, fair play to him. Pick up your paycheck, man. Support your family. But I think his foot's out the door. I think he's ready to retire. Just opened a gym as well. And yeah, for those reasons, I can't back him, man. Like you said, Moicano's got the momentum. I think if this was pure jiu-jitsu, Dariush would probably win half the time. I do think that Dariush is a legit BJJ guy, one of the best to ever do it in the UFC. just pure grapplers. But yeah, Moicano, I like him. I think this is going to be a decision also. And yeah, I like Benny, man, but it's time to hang it up, in my opinion.
I feel the same way, Rich. And I love Beneil Dariush, but the way that he lost to Charles Oliveira was really devastating. It was basically the make or break fight of his career. And sometimes people have that in fighting, right? Where it's like, comes down to this. If I win this one, I get the title shot. If I don't, they're probably never going to put me in there. And notice how he got match made after. They go ahead and give him right to Arman Tsarukyan, the next guy up for the title shot. And it's a brutal business, right? It's very cutthroat. And normally, if you're not on the way up, you're on the way down fast. And I think that right now, Renato Moicano has shown the UFC, I can go out there and still be on the up and up. I can go out there and still do things that you don't expect me to, like fly all the way to France and beat Benoit Saint-Denis and crush his face. Right? People are telling me Renato Moicano can't bust a grape. He's not dangerous. But Jalen Turner was ready to cover up and go home. Right? This guy has realized when I get on top of people, the answer is not me selling out for my grappling and trying to hold them down. It's to damage them really badly and make them not want to continue fighting with me, because he is a guy that's very hard to get up from underneath. Right? Benoit Saint-Denis, physical, hard to control, a horse on bottom. He could do nothing, right? Thiago Moises was able to take him down, but what happened? He kept getting back up. He kept making him work. He kept moving, scrambling, nothing for free. This guy, Renato Moicano, has been very different on the ground, whether it's putting in that back body triangle like he used to do. He used to be expert at that. Now it's floating in the mount. Now it's taking people down with that body lock, and his control on top is sensational. So do I think he's going to have an easy time taking down Beneil? No. Do I think there's a chance he could get rocked in the first round? I do. But I think that right now, the guy who's shown me he can dog it out more is Renato Moicano. And the guy who, folded the tent against Charles Oliveira is Beneil Dariush, right? And I thought that was a fight where we kind of saw Benny, lose it, right? Like he was out there, he gets to the top position, looks like everything's going right. He starts throwing the hardest ground and pound you've ever seen into the mat. He's missing by a half a mile, and he exhausted himself in like a minute and a half. It was just a shocking performance from a guy that experienced, a guy who's been around that long. And I think part of it had to do with age. I don't know that he feels like he could do this, 15 hard minutes anymore. And if you look back, like the Gamrot fight was a fight where Gamrot let that fight slip through his fingers. He was starting to put a pace on him. He's starting to do a decent enough job with the striking. And he got hit with an overhand left that was telegraphed from Hades. Like literally, Beneil Dariush was like, and just loaded up his left hand. And Gamrot just watched it hit him as hard as it did. He falls to the ground, gets back up, and the fight was over, right? He had already lost at that point. I think Benny is still a guy that can go out there and compete, but I don't think the chin's there. I just don't. So for me, I think Renato Moicano, I already said this on the bold prediction show I did. I think Renato Moicano could fight for the title this year. I think right now he's got that kind of star power that the UFC is looking for. He's got that kind of mouth that the UFC is looking for. He's going to go out there and talk shit if he wins this fight and call for another big opportunity. And right now he's been aces. If you look, he has not lost a fight in 6 fights in the lightweight division. The one time he lost was up, it was 5 days notice or whatever against RDA, after he's drinking beers and eating steaks on the boat, and they call him. He's like, yeah, sure. And by the way, he went 5 rounds in that spot on short notice. He got his ass whipped, never looked for the way out, never tried to quit on himself, was literally saying like, fuck you, walking him down, trying to get in his face, trying to do anything to win the fight. I was like, yo, that's the kind of guy that you bet on, as an underdog, right? As a minus 200 favorite, I'm just going to pick him to win and let this fight go.
Yeah, I can't wait until Moicano wins and gets on the mic, man. Who knows what crazy shit he's gonna say? Fucking, yeah, I'm here for it, man.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about Hegelian, philosophy or something.
It's not gonna be, bro. It's gonna be about the fires. These fires are fake as fuck, man.
Oh my god, in LA, that would be a bold play by Moicano, but we've seen bolder. Next up, my man, we got 2 former champions. This felt like a fight that was destined to happen eventually, right? Jamal Hill obviously took the title when Yuri Prohaska was sidelined due to that shoulder injury. And, now it shall be done. You've got Yuri Prohaska, very battle-tested veteran, the younger guy in this fight. A guy who can typically push, those hard rounds. He was able to gut it out, take out Glover Teixeira late, but he gets hurt in almost all of his fights. He's a guy that invites a lot of risk. And on the other side, Jamal Hill, a little bit more traditional, right? A little bit more meat and potatoes, goes out there, throws normal combinations that you're used to seeing. But the other thing is he can do it all night, right? And a lot of light heavyweights can't throw the volume that Jamal Hill can throw. But the other side of the coin is, it took him 4 strikes to break Jimmy Crute's face. This guy's a very powerful guy. You don't want to be on the other end of those strikes. You don't want to take him clean. And for me, I feel like I love Yuri. He's one of my favorite fighters, but he's taken ass whooping after ass whooping after ass whooping in the UFC. He's taken nothing but damage. And Jamal Hill on the other side, he got knocked out in his last fight. He had one arm break situation. Otherwise, he's been pretty much aces throughout his career, beating the shit out of most of his opponents. I think Thiago Santos gave him a pretty tough run, going for some takedowns and stuff like that. But I think that unless Yuri is going to commit to the grappling in this fight, which he normally does not do, then I think he's probably going to be in range to get brutally knocked out. And I hope I don't see it. I love Yuri, but it's just the way I see it going down. Like, I think Jamal Hill, because people don't like his social media and they don't like, his attitude and his arrogance and some of the negative things about his personality, I think that they are kind of kidding themselves about his fighting ability. I do think he's a really, really dangerous guy. There's a reason he was very close line with Ferrera as well. People thought he had a very good chance to win that fight. And then he loses it and they say he sucks, he's a bum, and he never had a chance anyway. So for me, it's a fickle mistress, this game. And if anybody has a point to prove coming back, it's Jamal Hill. Yuri Prohaska has been a champion in other organizations. He's been a champion in the UFC. He's had a ton of professional fights. Look at Jamal Hill's record, 14 professional fights. He has not been doing this his whole life, every time out, but he did get to the top, and I think he's hungry to get back there, get some revenge on Ferrera if he can. So as far as I'm concerned, man, it's a tricky fight. It's not an easy fight to call. If I was on Yuri, I would probably wait to bet it live after 1. I think Jamal Hill is going to let him have it in the first round.
Yeah, I think this is the hardest fight to call on the card, man. And I don't see how anyone can be confident in either man because, one clean connection by either of them, which they're both capable of, the fight's over, man, or it drastically changes the course of the fight. But yeah, my official pick will be Jerry, ITD. I just think Hill, he talks a good game, and he posts these pictures where he's drinking a prime bottle and like bloating his belly out to take the piss. But I then see him on fight week, wearing like a long sleeve top like I am while he's training. And you can just see his podgy under there. So I don't know what his physique's going to be like. I don't know, how serious he's taking this. He could look like complete shit on the scale. So I'm not going to bet it until I see weigh-ins, until I see face-offs. But Jerry, man, he's so fucking annoying. In some of his fights, he waits and waits and waits. It's like he's not confident in what he's going to do. And then he just fucking spams whatever, like he did against Ratic. Yeah, it worked out for him. His chin held up and he was able to get the finish with his pressure and with some volume. But it's a risky game he plays, man. So he's always primed to get knocked out himself. But yeah, gun to my head, man. I picked Jerry. He's the side for me, but I don't see how anyone can be confident in either guy, man.
Yeah, I think essentially it's like a fairly binary fight, but maybe you give Yuri the fact, hey, he could win it on the feet, he could win it on the ground. I would be a little surprised if Hill won it on the ground, but just like in terms of who's the more responsible fighter on the feet, I do think Yuri's a little bit less responsible, right? I think he just takes huge risks all the time. He does cool stuff. He makes for awesome fights, but Jamal Hill, there's a reason coaches tell you to keep your hands up and do normal things like that so you don't get hit cleanly with every strike. And that's what makes me worried for my guy Yuri. So fun fight. I'm excited to see it play out. All right, my man. Oh, no, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, kill or be killed. That's the perfect fucking way to describe Jerry and his style, man.
I don't know what the prices are, but I don't think that fight's going to the cards. I'll just leave it there. I think they're going to try and brutally kill each other until somebody is dead. So they are just those kind of guys, Next up, man, we've got two guys that are not like that. Merab Dealisvilli taking on Umar Nurmagomedov, the machine, plus 260 underdog as the reigning champion of the weight class. He's 34 years of age, so he's on the wrong end of the age dynamic here. Also, the bigger fighter will be Umar Nurmagomedov, the undefeated 18-0. I think the difference between these guys, if you had to go, talk about their experience, one guy's on an 11-fight win streak against a lot of the best guys in the world, and that would be Merab Dealisvilli. And Umar Nurmagomedov, I think he's got, I would call it 2 elite wins. Saeed Yakub Kakramanov, no longer with the UFC, but I do think he's a very, very solid fighter. That was all the way back in 2018. Then you look at Corey Sandhagen, his most recent win, a very good win, right? He goes out there. I think, he got one round dinged off him by each of the last two judges. But, going out there, basically winning 5 rounds or at least competing hard all 5 rounds against Corey Sandhagen, that's a good look. But we've also seen other guys go out there and out wrestle Corey Sandhagen, right? You look at TJ Dillashaw, tears his knee apart, and then still is able to get 2 takedowns for 8 minutes of control time against Corey Sandhagen. Umar had 5 takedowns for 5 minutes of control. Not a great sign for me. The other thing is Aljamain Sterling, with all due respect, took down Corey Sandhagen in 1 minute and 14 seconds and told him, thanks anyways. See you next year, kid. And he submitted him easily. And Umar was able to get him down, was not able to submit him, was not able to put him in those positions. So he's a well-rounded fighter. He's got the ability to fight on the feet. He knocked out Hanny Barcelos, like we mentioned. He can go out there and dominate for 15 minutes. He did that to Nate Maness. But you look at the guys that he's beat, most of them are not producing these great UFC resumes. A lot of them have been cut from the promotion. A lot of them can make the flyweight division. They've dropped out of the bantamweight contendership. And Merab Dvalishvili on the other side produces an insane amount of volume as well as an insane amount of wrestling activity. And I heard Coach Khabib himself say he's the better freestyle wrestler. He brings better pressure than Umar. They respect this guy. They know that he's got quality skills. Do I think that they think they could beat him? Yeah. He's got an ability to go out there and hurt Merab. Merab's been hurt by Marlon Moraes. He's been hurt by Sean O'Malley. He's been hurt by a lot of guys. But he's also a guy that's pretty tough to get out of there. He's a durable fighter. And he also has shown he can hurt people when he needs to. He can get on top of them. He can threaten submissions. He can find a way to convince the judges he deserves the win. So I think that this is a tough fight. I think it's the toughest fight of Umar's career. So fun fight, fun scrap. I think there's a little disrespect on the champion. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, Umar, he definitely hasn't fought good competition, man. And he is kind of getting this based off his name. Like I heard Merab crying about, he seems really emotional about that, Merab, saying that he's only getting this fight because of his name. Yes, maybe that's the case, but so what? That's the fight in front of you. So handle business. If you think that he's there unjustly and that he's not there on his credentials, then make work of him, man, and show him, that there's levels to the game. Don't cry about it. Merab's beat all these names, but I think they've been stylistically favorable to him. These matchups, the Sean O'Malley fight was binary. Henry's in retirement mode. The only valid fight that I really give him props for is the Yan fight. Before that, he was facing, a shell of Aldo who just stayed against the cage and did fuck all. It seemed like he was happy to lose that fight. And I think that was like the moment when Aldo was retiring, or he was mid-retirement, whatever. And then he came back. But yeah, I do think he's hurtable. Merab, he got wobbled by Morales. Sean hurt him with a body kick late on in their fight as well. So I think he's hittable on the feet. I've never been a fan of Merab, man, so I'm super biased. He's had 14 fights. He's finished one of them. It was Marlon Moraes when he got fucking tired. So big whoop on that. I don't think he's great striking. He hasn't got power. Yeah, he throws high volume, but he's not hurting anybody. I think Umar can
knocked out Raufeon Stotts when he was an undefeated fighter.
Bro, don't mention that. It was some spinning, lucky, fluky back fist, big whoop. And that was like
Merab first round KO by spinning back fist is going to hit like crack.
Yeah, I like Umar, man. I like him by submission. He's got the metrics on his side. He's considerably bigger than Merab. I think Merab's game plan and Syndicate's game plan by that retard John Wood is going to be to try and outlast Umar and put the pressure on in the championship rounds. Come round 3, try and turn it up. But I think for the first 2 rounds, Merab's going to try and avoid the fight, lateral movement, skirt on the outside. I don't think he's going to engage in the wrestling. I heard that quote as well by Khabib saying he's the better freestyle wrestler. But in terms of mixing everything up, man, I think Umar's definitely more dangerous. Merab isn't subbing anybody. He doesn't put fucking body locks in. Doesn't put the hooks in. The majority of the time when he takes people down, they bounce right back up, man. But he just rinse and repeats with it. But I think Merab knows not to engage in the wrestling with Umar because I think Umar's the better grappler, the better BJJ guy. And the more dangerous, the more likely to sub. And I don't think he wants to enter that world with him and give him the chance to do that. I'm sure Umar will try and push it. But the only thing I didn't like about Umar when I was doing tape, aside from the fact that he hasn't fought good competition, is he's only fought in one pay-per-view, meaning he's only fought in one big cage, and that was against Brian, drawing a blank on his name. Boom.
Keller. I got you. Boom. Yep.
Yeah, that was the only pay-per-view one, man. And that finished within the first round. So it doesn't tell us much. And what I noticed is when he's in open space, he struggles with the takedown. He does his best work against the cage. Maybe that'd go well for him here because I imagine Merab will be skirting on the outside of the cage. So if he can cut him off and take him down there and then press him against the cage, I think he'll have success. But if they're out in the open, man, I think Merab might have some opportunities to get back up, work his way to the feet. But I can definitely see Umar looking like fucking Khabib in there. I think he can hold Merab down. I think he is a better grappler, way more dangerous. So the line is off for somebody in their first title fight, somebody with a lack of experience against good opposition. But I do think Umar will win, and I like the submission. It's like plus 400 when I seen it. I don't know what it is now. So that's what I'm going to do, man.
Fair play, my brother. I'm going to go with this as my closing statement. New York runs the bantamweight division until proven otherwise. Patchy Mix did it. Our guy, Aljamain Sterling, did it. And when we briefly lost that to Sean O'Malley, our guy Merab, the machine, went back there and took it for us. So New York runs bantamweight until proven otherwise. That is what I'm going to say. God bless and good luck to both guys. Fun fight, good scrap. And I think they've got the right guy for the title fight. But I think ultimately, you got to go out there and prove it. And Merab Dvalishvili has been making a career of upsetting people, 2-1 as an underdog. I remember people told me he had no chance against Petr Yan. Loyalty was plus EV that night, plus 2XX, and he came through in the clutch. So shout out to Merab. But in any case, man, one of the fights that you can make in the UFC that's the most compelling, right? Especially when you talk about a rematch. A lot of times I get rematch fatigue. Rich, I'll just tell you the truth. I don't like seeing a million rematches. I like to see new matchups, new opportunities. This is one that needs to be done again. Islam Makhachev has been taken down 2 times in his UFC career. Once was by Thiago Moises, a BJJ world champion. The other time was by Arman Tsarukyan at 22 years of age. He's now 28 years of age. He has put on some muscle. He has put on some size. He looks like he's ready to compete. And he looks like he's ready to go sell out for whatever he has to give. And we talked about in some of these dynamics, right? Last time out, right? We just talked about Umar. He's 29 years of age. He's coming in as the challenger, and they've got him heavily favored, right? And now you've got a challenger who's 28 years of age compared to a 33-year-old Islam Makhachev. Complete difference in the line, right? Completely different dynamic. And they're not giving Arman much of a chance to get this one done, despite the fact that he went out there and showed as a young man. By the way, your physical development as a man typically goes on till about 25 years of age. At 22, he was out there competing with him physically. And one thing that starts to happen after 25 years of age is you start to deteriorate. And it doesn't happen fast, right? You're 28 years of age, you're still great, whatever. But why do we talk about Father Time is undefeated? It's because you're deteriorating over time physically. It's hard to keep up the same labor on your body, the same pace, everything else. The other thing that gets much harder over time is cutting weight. And Islam has not been quiet about that. He's been loud about that. He had the IV controversy. He's had a couple fights against featherweights. He's done all these different little things, and he's done a great job. He's a very good fighter. Last time out against Dustin Poirier, he was a huge favorite, and he went out there, had a scrap. I thought it was 2-2 going into the 5th round. I was there in person in Newark, New Jersey. And by the way, guys, when I'm sitting in the box, I was in the DraftKings box through a contact that I work with at Roto Grinder. Shout out to him. And, I look over to my left. Who do I see standing there? Arman Tsarukyan. They have known that this guy was going to be challenging for the title for a long time. They had him there at the event. They had him there dressed nice in a nice suit, walking around, meeting people, an important guy. They like this guy. They want to give him big spots and big opportunities. They put him in main events. They put him out there against, guys that are serious. Charles Oliveira, one of the biggest names in the UFC, gave him big opportunities. And did he have an easy time against Charles? No, he did not. But did he have an easy time against Beneil Dariush? Yes, he did. Made it look really easy and called for this spot, big opportunity. So now a guy that I think can compete with him in the wrestling, I think he could knock him out. I'm just going to say it the way I see it. Islam has been hurt in his fights before. He's a tough guy. He's a son of a bitch, man. You keep going, right? Volk hurt him. He dropped him late. He just didn't have the juice to get him out of there. Volk doesn't hurt many people. He doesn't drop many people. Then you look back, okay, Adriano Martins didn't win another fight in the UFC as far as I'm aware. Knocked him out. hit him cold, got him early. Arman Tsarukyan typically comes out like a house on fire. He doesn't just punch. He can punch very hard. He can kick. He can kick you in the head. So I think that he's going to present some challenges and some opportunities. And again, Dustin Poirier, very good, very technical, very clean, but he doesn't present all the same opportunities, right? He likes to go out there and box. That's what he wants to do. If you try and take him down, he's going to try and hit you with the guillotine. If he doesn't get it, he's probably going to end up on his back. Like, I think Arman's going to approach it completely differently. I think he's going to say, you want to wrestle? Let's find out who's the better wrestler, but I'm going to try and kick your head off. I'm going to try and punch your head into the third row. He's a violent son of a bitch. So that's the way I see him, man. I think he's a live underdog, period. And I think he's a great fighter at a great price. So whether he wins this fight or not, he's been favored to win every other UFC fight that wasn't against Islam Makhachev. And, you know, one controversial decision loss against Gamrot doesn't tell me that he can't go out there and fight and win big, important fights. So for me, give me the 28-year-old Arman Tsarukyan for the upset.
Yeah, I agree, man. Islam is mush of the week. Last week it was Bashi, so we're going to try and make it 2-0, man. I have tried to get him before, back in the day, Islam, when he fought Dustin Poirier, and I do feel a little bit aggrieved about that one. It was 2-2 going into the last round. But yeah, this is a totally different fight, man, and people are going to point out that Islam's got great striking. He outstruck Dustin, but, you know, styles make fights, and every fight's different. Dustin was obviously cautious of the takedown threat because he doesn't have the wrestling to compete with Islam. You know, they're on different levels in pure wrestling. But Arman can compete with Islam. Like Liam said, Arman was the first guy to ever take him down. He was competitive in that fight, but he was 22, man. It was early in his career. He is now 28, coming into his own. And the UFC absolutely do like Arman. You know, they put him on UFC 300, the highest profile event. You know, these, you know, the UFC 100, UFC 200, 300. They put him on that. He won his fight on that. That got him some clout. If you remember, they put him on that Q&A. They had 3 people that they could have chose for that Q&A at UFC 300. The one where he said he'd fuck Kayla Harrison. They had Kayla herself, who they want to push. She's going to be a future champion. They had Alex Ferrera, and then they had Arman, you know. So I just think it shows that they want to highlight this guy. They want to push him. Huge social media following. California, highest concentration of Armenians in the USA. He's been on 3 pay-per-view cards. He's headlined pay-per-views. He's headlined fights. You know, he's been the main event. So yeah, I think they're trying to push Arman. I think that Islam is going to go to 170. This is what I think is the whole design by this. You know, the manager of Belal Muhammad and Islam is the same. It's Ali Sleaze. He manages both of them. And I just think there's some fuckery. I hear Belal talking about Sean Strickland all the time. And I think they're all in cahoots. So, yeah, I think Islam's going up to 170. Belal's going up to 185. And Arman's going to hold the belt until Charles Oliveira comes in and submits him later on in the year. I think DuBronx is you know, primed to hold the lightweight belt again. But in terms of this fight, I like Arman. He's got the wrestling to compete. He's looking fantastic. You know, per his Instagram, he's working, looks in great physical shape. And Islam, you know, he's been at lightweight for a while. He struggles with the weight class now as he's getting older. He's a huge fucker, man. He kills himself to make it. He's going to slow down in the fight. I think he'll be okay for like round 1, 2. It'll be competitive, but I think he's going to fall off, man. And I think Arman's going to win a decision and he's going to win the belt. Anything else to add? Yeah, Arman himself, actually, you know, I don't like him in 5-rounders, to be honest. You know, his cardio kind of fails him as well. You know, he kind of goes into autopilot in rounds 4 and 5. You know, he does go hard. But I just think that Islam's, you know, worse than the 2 in that regard, you know, with the big weight cut. And it was funny, man. I was looking at shit as well, like California and the state commission. And they're the only one who do this whole fucking 15% weight thing. I don't know whether you know about that or you've looked that up.
Yeah, you can't be too heavy on fight night relative to your weigh-in.
Yeah, but what the fuck's the punishment, man? Because I went back to look at the previous card in Anaheim and people missed weight. Merab was on there and Merab come in over the 15%, but there's no punishment. Like, what's discouraging?
I think it might be that they like encourage you to move up or something. I don't think it's like punitive as much as it is like a recommendation structure. And I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's what Andy Foster said, was like they'll like advise the athletes like you're cutting too much weight and things like that for health and safety. But I don't know that they're going to do anything like, you know, to piss off the UFC, because otherwise the UFC is spiteful and they will go to other commissions.
Yeah, well, it's just stupid if it's not mandatory. If you're not going to put these punishments in there and you're encouraging, quote unquote, then what's the point? Marab would be like, oh, thanks for the encouragement, but now I'm good. I like what I'm doing here. But yeah, whatever. Arman's the pick, and we're going to go 2-0 on the mush, man. Islam's going to 170.
I love it. Hopefully, you know, from your lips to God's ears, my man, let's get another win on the board. That would be a great feeling. I think that we've done a great job covering the card. I got to get out of here and go coach some wrestling. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick it over to Rich and tell the people where they could find you, all the great stuff you got going on. By the way, all these links that he's about to shout, they're down in the description below. So you guys can find it right there for your convenience.
Yeah, I'll keep it short, man. Just go to Twitter. There's a link in my bio. Join the Patreon. It's like $12 a fucking month. I got a Discord group. We post pictures of Perez from OnlyFans and all kinds of crazy shit. So it's worth the sub on that alone.
There you have it. Rich, always with the information off the top rope. Also, I'll just let you guys know, I have a little less than 4 pages of previous write-ups, as well as like fighter profiles on the fighters competing at UFC 311. It's a lot of information, right? I've gone back and read a lot of it myself. That's how I help myself prepare for the show. But if it would help your process, you can find that all at the links below. Peace, love, and chicken grease, guys. Good luck on this betting card. I will probably have more content for you later in the week. But for now, we'll wish you all a farewell, and drop a like, get subscribed, come back next week. We're having all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody.